Hey everybody, I'm back with some more content. Today I got a video that came up in my feed, 10 questions for atheists. I'm an atheist, so no one should be better at answering these than me, right? But before I get into the list, for any, believers or even, other atheists with different beliefs than mine, just try and keep an open mind to what I'm going to say because I'm not going to be impugning you or your beliefs or the things that you take as evidence at all. I'm just going to answer for myself purely. And yeah, without further ado, let's go for it.
The worldview discussions space can be so combative. And when atheists and Christians come up with lists of questions that they don't think the other side can answer, those questions usually aren't genuine. I've never made a list like that, although I've responded to some. Here, I hope my atheist interlocutors will consider these questions deeply without giving glib.
I think for at least me, if I'm asking a question about religion, I'm not asking it to. I'm not asking it in bad faith. Funny enough, I'm asking it because if you have an answer, I would like to know it. Like, people can be curious. It's weird. Anyway, sorry.
Answers. These aren't meant to be gotcha questions, though I'm not asking for no reason. I expect you will have answers, and I want to hear what the most sincere among you have to say. With that, here are my 10 questions for atheists.
I'm going to be sincere. I'm going to answer this in totally good faith.
What facts about reality that you and I agree are real facts about the way the world is does your worldview account for, but my Christianity doesn't account for, or at least doesn't account for well? And for those of you that would point out atheism isn't a worldview, I'm talking about you, your worldview that includes atheism. I can't think of any. Christianity accounts for evil, suffering, the existence of other religions, including supernatural events in those other religions, science, and differences among different denominations of Christianity. But I can think of many things that the most common worldviews that include atheism don't answer as well as I think Christianity does. Like universal supernatural claims, universal religious experiences, free will, morality, near-death experiences, beauty, the rapid expansion of the early church, the events surrounding the life and death of Jesus of Nazareth, and our shared longing for purpose and meaning. So what is it that Christianity doesn't answer as well as your worldview?
Okay. Well, there was a lot in there, right? But I guess to start, when we're agreeing on facts in a worldview, you got to know that atheism is literally, like you said, it's just one facet of a worldview. So there's nothing prescriptive about it. At least atheism. Atheism is just lack of belief in a God. That's it. But there's many facts that we do agree on, and that's why I say that atheism is merely one fact. It doesn't have to be loaded with a whole worldview behind it, because for me, it's definitely not like that. Because we can agree on things, like I said, but it's how we get there is the issue, right? Because it can lead to problems. So let's say, okay, here's a perfect one. You can believe that babies are born biologically through a male having sex with a female, and then having gestation and pregnancy and childbirth. Or you can believe that mommy and daddy love each other and the stork comes at night and drops off a baby. Both of these people who could believe these two different things, both of them could believe these two different things and still agree that a baby is a baby. Right? So that's where I would go with that. When you're saying the Bible accounts for suffering, other religions, evil, supernatural events, that's fine to account for that, but they're just assertions. I would challenge you to ask yourself, why do you believe in a text that I'm sure you would agree was written by men? So why do you believe those? Because there's plenty of books that can describe full universes and gods and full creations and creation of everything. But what makes one right over the other? Because a text claims to answer the question, it doesn't make those claims true. That's circular logic. And then when we come to the atheism doesn't address universal supernatural claims, religious experience, free will, morality, near-death experience, beauty, expansion of the church, the life of Jesus, shared longing for purpose and meaning. If we take if we take atheism just in etymology, which is breaking down the word and its roots, you have the first part is a, which means, I believe, not having, right? The, as in like God, theology, that type of thing, right? And then ism, belief. No God, belief. That's literally all it means. There's not all these other things loaded extra to it. You can believe a lot of things, and commonly there will be other things that people believe, but atheism is just a single topic. It's not a doctrine. Number 2.
If your definition of atheism is merely that it's a lack of belief in God and you're just waiting to be convinced, but then you speak of him as though he's in some way synonymous with Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or fairies, doesn't that at least send the message to your listeners that you actually believe that there is no God? After all, these are entities and beings that you likely believe do not exist. And if your response is that you merely lack a belief in Santa Claus and don't actively believe that he does not exist, doesn't that sound a little disingenuous, honestly?
Okay. There's a lot there. Atheism is a lack of belief. I'm not waiting to be convinced. Lack of belief, yes, that is what atheism is, but there's no waiting to be convinced of something. I'm not sitting here thinking that there's going to be some divine strike one day and then I'm going to know all the answers to everything. So, yeah, that's fine. Equating it with the Easter Bunny and Santa, yeah, I don't do that, but do you see how people could, right? Like, because these are regarded the same way in the fact that there's no physical evidence, that we haven't found anything yet. We're not waiting to be convinced, but we are open to be convincing. Well, at least I am. And lack of belief and not convinced literally are the same thing, bro. That's, I don't know what that meant.
When atheism becomes a part of someone's worldview, they typically change their positions on other issues like abortion, sexual morality, and a number of other things. I actually have several videos of well-known atheists saying that there's nothing wrong with prostitution, that they hope their children don't save themselves until marriage, and that sex workers should be put up on a pedestal no different than the military. I didn't use those here because I didn't want to seem combative to individuals, specifically the individuals who made those statements. But even if you didn't become an atheist just so you could sin, and I believe you, do you at least understand why those moves could send that message to people who might say that to you?
I mean, here's what it comes down to, Braxy. I think that people have the right to their own body. That's what it comes to, including and up to exchanging money for physical acts. And those acts may or may not include sexual acts. I don't see anything wrong with having multiple sexual partners before settling down if that's what someone wants to do. You know, if that's what someone feels like they should do and that's part of the journey that they think is going to fit their life correctly, who am I to say it's not? I mean, that's kind of where I go on that issue. And I don't know. I haven't heard anyone say that we need to respect them the same way we respect the military, but I think we should respect them. I think sex workers absolutely deserve respect. I mean, they're people, and on that basis alone, we should be respecting them. And they're providing a service, right? Supply and demand. If no one wanted it, there wouldn't be people doing it. So what comment are you really making? I think, yeah, humans deserve that. And then I challenge you to explain to me. I mean, if you really want to have a dialogue, I would love to talk to you sometime because this is sincere from me. And if it is sincere from you, I would love to engage with you. But I'm going to issue my first challenge here and explain to me how any of these things like prostitution or premarital sex or sex work in general, explain to me how any of these things are inherently bad or immoral without citing the Bible as the proof. Because I don't see anything. There can be issues with things, there can be problems with things, yes. And we deal with those issues, but we don't get rid of things altogether, right? Right? Because cheeseburgers and sugar is still completely legal. People are getting fat and diabetes and dying. They are. But we try to mitigate that in other ways, not saying no sugar. Anyway, I didn't become an atheist so I could sin. Either I became one because there's no sufficient evidence to prove that sin is anything beyond a human-made idea, right? I I there's no evidence for it, so why should I keep going with it? Oops. Damn, where were we? 4?
It's a lack of belief sort of atheism. What is it? Is it 50-50, 60-40, 75-25? And at what point do you feel disingenuous saying that you merely lack a belief as opposed to leaning towards, I believe that God does not exist?
I don't feel disingenuous at all. But when you're asking what percentage is my belief or lack of belief, and at what point does it become leaning towards I disbelieve, I feel like these are all weird, like subjective, like games to play. What I'm looking for, what would help is patterns, like pattern recognition. Replicating things helps, or like seeing things, seeing effects of things. Hard line. My hand's here, goes here, pushes up. There you go. Now my hat moved. See, that's my proof. There's evidence that it does it, and I can replicate it. I can keep doing it. Yeah, I think and it doesn't really matter what the percentage is. It's going to be different for different people. If you really want to know my exact percentage, I'm saying we could talk about this and we can get into the nuance of everything, because I believe it's extremely nuanced.
Now, I know we've all got our talking points, but I want you to struggle to be as sincere with yourself as you can right now. Doesn't it bother you a little bit that when we come to talk about the origins of the universe, and if there's a multiverse, the origin of that too, that the only real options you've got besides God is a past infinite universe, which is impossible, or the universe coming to exist uncaused out of nothing, or something far less clear than even those? It seems that for any worldview that includes atheism, there's a massive blind spot when it comes to the origin of the universe, and all the attempts to try and circumvent that problem seem desperate, and at least far less likely than theism. My question isn't just what do you typically say about this, because I'm well aware of the responses. My question is simply this: when you step away from the debate mode that it's so easy for us all to get into online, doesn't this issue destabilize you a little bit? It seems to fit really poorly with any worldview that includes atheism.
Here comes with the loaded up again. Am I bothered that besides God, the only explanation I have are also like unknowable and clear? When you say God, by the way, this is going to help illustrate my point. So when you say God, which God do you mean? Like exactly which one? Because there are many texts that have gods that have created the universe. So which one are you talking about? Why is the Christian God the correct version? Okay. And again, atheism doesn't comment on the creation of the universe. It's only a lack of belief in God. Not believing in God and the creation of the universe, to you, you're putting those two together. But for someone who doesn't believe in God, I still know the universe was created. I'm here. Well, I think therefore I am. That's really all I know. And here's my next challenge. It demonstrate to me how God did it, and how exactly is that more likely than any other explanation, because that is very bold. That's a very, very bold claim. Do you have an equation? Do you have some type of citation? Because it seems like a really, really presumptuous thing that because in your mind, that's the best explanation, again, in your mind, and all the other explanations either don't make sense or are unclear, that we're going to go with that. That's not how it works, bud. And as far as me being destabilized, no, I'm not destabilized at all, because like, unlike you, having an omniscient knowledge of everything, like that isn't something that I base my beliefs on. I base my beliefs on learning more and continuing to grow and sharpen and get better and better and better. I'm not claiming that I know everything, and I'm actually kind of okay with that.
Of the arguments for God's existence, is there one that to you seems more interesting than the rest? Is there one that for you actually does weigh in favor of theism? Which one?
Nope. You could say so many people maybe that have that longing to fit in. Like, I mean, the best argument for religion isn't an argument for religion, or it's not an argument for God. It's an argument for religion. It's an argument for community. I would say a lot of people have the longing to fit in with their society and to be good with the people around them and have deep bonds. And if maybe a lot of people in there say that we believe this, you want to be with them. So you say you believe this too, and you get in with it, right? Like, say, I don't know, your parents are Christians, and then you happen to be a Christian, right? You fit in very well with that. Or you could be needing to like self-soothe from the harshness of our reality with a promise of eternal perfection, which, does feel nice. This world, I don't want to say sucks, but it's harsh. It's harsh. There's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of bad things happen to good people, and a lot of good things happen to bad people. And it feels good to think that there's like some plan for everything. It really does. But when it comes down to it, that's not an argument for God. That's an argument for self-soothing and, self-medication. And I mean that in the most like holistic sense, not in any weird like woo-woo way. Next.
Most atheists I've met humbly admit that they don't think they can have absolute certainty about much of anything. But what they want from the Christian is a demonstration that God exists or that Christianity is true. But when we offer the reasons to believe that we do have, those are typically deemed not good enough. So what sort of evidence, if any, would be enough to convince you? Do you know? And since it's often a conversation stopper, let's take experimental reproducibility off the table, since that's not even always necessary for science.
Okay. Guy. This is weird. I would love to know what science has consensus among the world's scientists that does not involve experimental replication. Like, this is a huge part of the scientific method, like a huge part. Every theory we have that I've ever heard of involves experimental replication, reproductivity. Always. That's literally how we figure things out. Again, I don't know everything. I'm not like the smartest guy ever, obviously, but I would love to know what science doesn't take experimental replication into account. Are you going to say surveys or something? Okay, that's surveys. Anyway. But even if I did like take that bullshit asterisk, right? That, yeah, we can take experimental replication off the table. I don't know, but you know who would? God. God is omniscient from everything I've heard and all powerful. And with that, God would be able to just change my heart like that. I would hope. I mean, it seems that God has done it to a lot of people through a lot of very different religions, and they each have different ways of having evidence within themselves. But if it can't be replicated, I can only see that as a claim, right? Because I could claim that God told me to punch the next puppy that I see. I would never do that. But I could claim, if I did, and then if I punched a puppy, I could say that God did that, and you would have no way of knowing whether God put that on my heart or not. And I'm being very honest, God has not talked to me, and I'm not someone who is not open to things like that. Like, if there's God, I would love to know about that. I absolutely would. So yeah, God would know what to do, and I'm at least confident of that based on the book that I assume you're into. A Christian one, that's what I mean.
To what extent did social and moral issues start you down the path toward your atheism? That is to say, the typical Christian or religious views on sexuality, gender, rights, and acts and commands of God in the Old Testament. It seems that many deconversion stories online begin with, or at least include, LGBT issues, purity culture, or hell as instrumental in the deconversion process. It strikes me that what should matter most is the truth and not what we might prefer that the truth were. I honestly wonder how much those issues and ones like them motivate the deconversion rather than all this talk about evidence.
Okay, guy, that was a little wild. Really what changed me was as a child, I realized that I had never met a 500-year-old man. I had never seen anyone come back to life. I had never seen a talking snake in real life. I had never seen any of that. But you know where I had seen it? In cartoons and TV. And I knew that that was fake. So I immediately thought, okay, what makes this one fake and this one real? That's kind of what changed me. The LGBT issues and the purity issues or hell. See, what that is shame. And that only bolsters my atheism. But like I said, I've already explored that. But that does bolster it because these are shame mechanisms. See, when I was born as a straight male, I didn't choose to like women. I was born that way. Or at some point, it just happened to me. It was never a conscious choice. So I don't understand how we could hate gay people or trans people or bi people or the whole myriad of LGBT people if that's how your God made them, right? And who made them to be shamed. I just don't buy that, and that's not very moral. And I don't think there's any way I could choose to switch what sex organs I'm attracted to at this point. So asking LGBT people to do that just makes that awful. And by the way, in the book, it says that LGBT people or a man shall not lay with another man. They're an abomination. Well, you know what? I know gay people. I know trans people. And they're not abominations. They're good people. They're loving. They want companionship or friendship. They have fun. They like shitty food and fucking sugar. They lie. They fucking cry. They have emotions. They have dreams. They just like different sex organs. Who fucking cares, man? I don't care. Like, why should that matter? Anyway. So yeah, no, LGBT issues didn't switch me down that road. But they don't help your case at all, man.
Can you name the last 3 academic books you read by theists on the subject? How long ago did you read them? Or is most of your understanding of apologetics and atheism from non-scholarly internet sources, pop-level books, and, let's face it, YouTube videos? And be honest with yourself about this. Anyone can Google up a list of books and paste them in the comments section. But I want to know, are you getting the best from the other side?
Okay. No, I'm not getting the best from the other side, and I really don't need to. And I find it weird that you think that the internet and popular books and YouTube have no valid information. That's a wild thought. The whole point of the internet is that it's open now, and now all the information is out there, and we can choose to find it or not, right? So if someone's really looking, then they will be able to find philosophical arguments or, in your case, evidence, which I still have none of. A quick question, though. Like, have you read 3 books from the best apologists from all the other religions of past and today? Because if not, you're not getting the best information, and you don't know if yours is true. Like, how do you know if your information is correct? You haven't studied every other god and every other religion. So, by your own logic, you haven't done the work, man, and you actually don't know. I claim that I don't know, which actually doesn't require research or evidence. Saying that you don't know something is not a positive claim. I'm not adding any information. I'm saying I don't know. Your claim that your book of Christianity is true, which is a positive claim. And it leaves you with the burden of proof for all of them. And I've yet to hear any. I'm willing to, and I'm open, but so far there hasn't been any, man.
Let's finish with a pretty common one. If you found out today, to your satisfaction, that Christianity were true, would you accept God's authority, repent of your sins, and trust Jesus as your king?
If I found out Christianity true, would I obey it? Sure. Yeah, Sure. If it was demonstrated to me somehow that I knew that it was true and that every single word of the Bible is correct and I knew how to differentiate between the literal stories and the metaphorical stories, yeah, I would. But I challenge you now, if you found out that Hinduism was true, would you believe? And would you give up everything about Christianity and become a Hindu? Because once you read those books, you might change your mind. Again, I just want to say I don't know everything. And it seems like you're kind of putting on me like, because I don't know everything and you claim to know everything that you actually do. But that's not how it works, my man Brax. But again, if you've made it this far, which I sincerely hope you have, because I answered these non-glibly, just like you asked, and thoughtfully, in an honest way. And I'd love to hear back from you, man. Have a good one.